Hello, friends. Welcome to week 3 of Work 1004. So, week 3 of the Foundations of Management. In this week, we're sort of talking about an iffy subject. We're talking about the role of personalities and the role of personality management in terms of managers, and whether or not managers should be categorizing people into different personalities and allocating jobs and allocating jobs and allocating tasks and roles and responsibilities to these different people based on their personalities. Now, from an intuitive view, it makes sense to delegate perhaps more extroverted people to more client facing roles because they will receive more energy from being around clients. They are perhaps more friendly in general, and perhaps they're more easily sociable, whereas introverts perhaps will not be as suited for perhaps client facing roles such as sales. So that's the general idea of managers should be able to be aware, be conscientious, and act upon certain understanding of their employees' personalities. So that's the idea of the broad idea of this week. And let us move into the notes to see what the notes are about. So before we get into the notes, let's just look at the module slide. So there's just one page of the module slide with two recorded lectures and some videos. So in this week, we're supposed to read chapter 14 of the textbook. Once again, the textbook. The textbook is this one. So if you look at week three's, sorry, let it load in. So this is the textbook that we are using. So chapter 14 of that, as well as week three's reading. Okay, so here are some readings for that. So it is the idea that we should explore individual behaviors and its relevance to influencing on its influence on managers. This week we'll explore the MBTI, personality trait categorization, and its relevance to management. So the MBTI trait basically categorizes people's personality into these four categories: extroversion versus introversion, sensors versus intuitive, thinkers versus feelers, judges versus perceivers. So I did the MBTI test 2 years ago. I got the result of ENTJ. I did the result again a few days before this class, and I also got the same result, ENTJ. So what the MBTI personality type seeks to do is seeks to categorize people into these different categories. However, if we actually think about it, are people that black and white? Are people just introverted or extroverted? Could you categorize all people into these two categories? Of course not. So that highlights some of the flaws into categorizing people into these different personality traits. Now, from a conceptual view, it makes sense that managers should be aware of the strengths and weaknesses of the personalities of its employees and delegate tasks accordingly. So, of course, although the MBTI personality ranking or personality categorization tool is flawed in many ways, it is still helpful. It still offers some sort of insight to managers and offers information that managers may be seeking. So, let's talk about self-awareness a bit. So self-awareness, awareness of the self's personality and of the self's likes and dislikes is important in management situations because managers must get the right person to do the job. So perhaps more extroverted, more outgoing people may do better in client-facing roles. So people do the best when they can when they can exploit their natural strengths, higher job satisfaction in the personalities where they fit the job. No, if you ask a highly introverted person to be a door-to-door salesman, the person will hate it, obviously, because the manager doesn't have self-awareness and awareness of its employees and the personalities of their employees. Managers also need to be aware of the personality traits because it is important to resist the urge to hire someone exactly like you. Now, the understanding is people like generally people like similars attract. So people like people that are similar to them. People like people that have similar interests, have similar backgrounds, have similar upbringings. So managers have to be self-aware and aware of the problem where they want to hire people that are exactly like them. So that's where self-awareness and understanding of your own personality and the personality of people around you comes into play. Managers should also reshape the job and not reshape the person. It's really hard to reshape people, as any person who said they could change their romantic partner will say. Okay. So to build greater self-awareness is soliciting feedback from people, as well as using self-awareness is equal to greater self-awareness. Okay. Managers need to have a great amount of self-awareness as well as awareness of its staff and of the group that is based off of. Yeah. So a few problems with using personality traits when when delegating and allocating jobs is perception distortions. So errors in perception or errors in judgment in any process of the perception process. So employers most times do not actually know the personalities of the employees. They are the often these employers would do something called reading people, where they sort of try to understand what these employees are like based on certain characteristics, based on certain traits. However, this is where perception distortion will come into play. Aspects such as stereotyping, generalizing people into certain groups, and putting stereotypes and drawing from stereotypes of certain groups on people into the individual is a perception distortion that may cause managers to misjudge and cause managers to have an error in their judgment about the person's personality and fittingness in a specific role or in a specific position. Another effect is the halo effect, where managers will attribute an overall impression of a person or situation based on only one characteristic. So one person may have an outstanding characteristic that overshadows many of the other flaws and perhaps blinds the manager from seeing those problems, and therefore leading to a perception distortion of errors in the perception or the judgment of the person. Attribution, where judgments were about what causes the person's behavior, either characteristic of a person, internal, or the situation, external. So whether or not it is a fundamental attribution error, the tendency to overestimate the influence of external factors, or self-serving bias, or it is the tendency to overestimate the contribution of internal factors and underestimate the contributions of external factors. So these are some perception disorders to be aware of when trying to understand a person's personality, as in relation to understanding their role and understanding how they fit into a position, and whether or not they fit into a position or a specific delegation and a specific task well. Okay. Locus of control is a tendency to place primary responsibilities on one's success or failures within internally, rather than due to outside factors. So a portfolio manager of a basket of investments may attribute the splendid returns of the investment portfolio to their personal abilities rather than to luck or to just the market being quite bullish that year. So we talked about the MBTI score. So yeah, clearly understand specific versus generic. General, understand the particular personality types. Self and stress management, and that's week 3. So those are the main points for week 3 in the foundations of management. It's really understanding the personalities, understanding the different personality types as laid out by the MBTI score, but and how managers should use the assessments of candidates and employees' personalities when delegating roles and when delegating positions. I personally found this week's content a bit lacking, a bit wishy-washy, a bit theoretical, and a little bit not too concrete, which is expected, because once again this is more of a theoretical class, the foundations of management, for example. I see the merit of this week's content in using personalities and personality tests for managers to better delegate tasks. So that's basically it for this week. I hope you took something away from it. And yeah, next week we're talking about something a lot more concrete. We're talking, so yeah. So I do hope these videos have been helpful, and Next, we're talking about management and teamwork. So after that, we're talking about management and culture. So more of this sort of this line of ideas of management and approaches to management from different perspectives and whatnot. So yeah, say hi to Teresa, the little one right there, and also say hi to Jerome, named after Jerome Powell of the U.S. Federal Reserve. So hope you guys had fun. Hope you guys took something away from this video, and I hope to see you guys next time. So take care and goodbye.